Hi, welcome to my channel, The Wordsmith's Revolution. This channel, we're going to be talking about books and writing and reading and teaching and all different things related to just the love of literacy and literacy in general. Books, all kinds of books. I'm a wide reader of most genres. I do ebooks, audiobooks, physical books. So I'm also really into using different apps to get them, like Hoopla or Libby, or I use my Kindle app a lot. So it's going to be just an exploration of those aspects of my hobbies and my life that I really enjoy. So to start off, I want to talk about what my goals are for July. So for July, my goal right now, especially since we've started July, so right now my goal is to reread For the Wolf by Hannah Witten. I really love this book the first time I read it. I did it on audio and ebook, so I kind of went back and forth, and then I loved it so much that I did get a copy for my bookshelves. And this is a retelling of Little Red Riding Hood, and I love retellings of fairy tales, especially ones like Little Red Riding Hood, Beauty and the Beast, Snow White, things like that. So usually if it's like, this is a fairy tale retelling, I'm usually like on board with that. So this was a really great fantasy book. The world building was so fun, and I loved the characters. So I want to reread this so I can remember everything that happened. I struggle with audiobooks with fiction, with remembering what I listened to. So that's something I kind of struggle with. So that's why I want to read this one, either the ebook one or this. My goal is really to like try and annotate this one, but I may just reread it so I can get to the sequel, which is For the Throne, which is supposedly a Beauty and the Beast retelling. So I had actually started reading this when it came out, and I started reading it and I really, really enjoyed it, but I stopped because I really couldn't remember everything that happened in the first book, and the events from this one pick up right after. Like, what happened in the first book is very important to what's happening in the beginning of this book. So it's very important what happened in the first book, where this one kind of picks up. So I wanted to make sure that I reread the first one, and I usually like to do that, especially if there's been time between it, and if it's one I really, really liked, I'll reread a book before I do a sequel or things like that. It just kind of depends on how many. For example, the J.D. Robb series, I do not reread all of those every time one comes out, because that's insane. But that's just an example. There's like 50-something books in that series. So something like that, with fantasy book, especially since I did the first one on audio, I really want to kind of go back and read it and see if that helps my comprehension a little bit better, which with fiction, I tend to have to see the words. Depends on the book, depends on the plot. Fantasy is definitely one of those things that I need to probably read instead of listen to, per se. But I'm also practicing that skill of doing more fiction on audiobook, because that's really something that I need to practice, like that active listening. I started with like podcasts and nonfiction, so I can do nonfiction books on audiobook, no problem. And I actually prefer nonfiction that way. I get through them a lot faster, and I'm more like excited to like listen to them like in the car and doing chores and things like that. So I tend to do nonfiction with audio, and then everything else is usually ebook or a physical book. It just kind of depends. I'm also trying to get more out of the library instead of buying them. So sometimes that'll also dictate, can I get the audiobook instead of the physical book and things like that. So we're also doing that. So I am so excited that you are here for my first video and here to kind of go with me on this journey of building this channel and kind of figuring out how to really make these videos and make them interesting and just have a great time. So if you want to be a part of this journey, make sure that you click subscribe and maybe like this video, because that'd make me feel really great. And then I will be working on some more videos to bring to you. So thank you so much for joining me.